Hello and welcome to Talking China, the show where we talk to people with unique perspectives and unrivaled knowledge about the main talking points in contemporary China. Today we're going to be talking about the hottest topics at the two sessions, from health and food security to greening the economy and the role of AI in society, and how they impact on people's lives in the year ahead. We're going to be joined by Professor Xia Lu, Research Fellow at the National Academy of Development and Strategies at Renmin University, Ina Tangen, Senior Fellow at the Taihe Institute and Chairman of Asia Narratives, and CGTN's very own Shun Shuwei, a social media guru and a reporter who's been on the ground at the two sessions.
All right, thank you, John. Actually, during my coverage about the two sessions at the sites, a lot of people just ask what are the top priorities. And so in our YouTube channel community, we have collected a lot of options and about the priorities. So number one is about policies to promote economic growth and stability. And number two is about initiatives on sustainable development and well-being. And number three is about breaking throughs in China's artificial intelligence field. So actually during the coverage and about the two sessions, there's a trending topic on social media is about China's three-year plan about health management and, for example, to lose weight, to have a more sustainable and very healthy lifestyle. So maybe we could start from this point.
Sure, thank you, Sheree. That's very neat. Our first topic is going to be health today. So we're going to be looking at some of the initiatives that China is pursuing and seeing how they can be transferred overseas potentially, what kind of model they can set. In the government work report, there was a mention of an increase in subsidy for basic health insurance, also a focus on integrating rural health services, all important things. One of the things I noticed was a passing mention, Ina, to the opening up of medical services to foreign investment, and of course the first wholly owned foreign hospital in China recently opened in Tianjin. What do you think this signals to the rest of the world?
Well, I mean, it's part of China's opening up policy. It also is a technology transfer. What you have is a situation where a lot of best practices have been developed overseas, and China is happy to have them here. This is not competitive. It's not like somebody in Tianjin is going to fly to Rome or Washington to have a medical procedure. It's simply ensuring that health is something that everyone can have. Now, there are sharp differences when you start talking about China and America, just so people understand. China spends 1/3 of what the U.S. does, literally 6% versus 18% of GDP on health. The only difference is China is able to take care of 95% of its population. An astounding number given the amount of money involved. Now, is it advanced in all areas? No, but China has been quickly catching up, and this is part of that. It also makes a lot of sense from China's perspective because they're interested in the TCTP. People might remember this is the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Everyone except the U.S. joined. Japan. It's led right now by Japan. But it's an area where China is trying to make inroads so that it is creating yet another avenue for trade and investment. Obviously, Belt and Road Initiative, BRICS, etc., are all there, but they want to go one step further. So all of these things combined make this opening up of investment into Chinese hospitals very, very attractive. It's a huge market, so it's in line with this dual circulation strategy, which is to use domestic consumption as a basis for attracting foreign direct investment.
Thank you, Ina. Professor Xia, Ina spoke about the role of foreign investment there. On a smaller level, a more focused level, how big challenges are there in the rural areas of China in terms of medical services?
Yes, just now, Mr. Tangen mentioned the foreign investment in China in terms of the hospital, the medical, the health system. Here, I would also like to add one of the examples that China has actively joined this kind of a global exchange in this health system and also the healthcare knowledge, technology. Actually, ever since 1963, more than 60 years ago, ever since 1963, China has actively joined in this kind of the foreign aid or international aid in terms of health, medical care, doctors and nurses. If I remember correctly, 1963, China sent its first, let's say, the expert team to Algeria in Africa to help to reduce or to help to fight against those kind of epidemic. Well, in the last kind of more than 60 years, China has already sent medical teams to 76 more than 76 countries and regions, treating let's say more than 290 million patients. And at the same time, the medical team member also trained the local professionals, local doctors and local nurses in order to improve the level of local medical technology, so that we can see from this fact that China has actively and we can say contributing to the international collaboration and exchange in medical care in terms of the human resources or the manpower. Also, China did a lot of kind of let's say contribution in this, not only the manpower but also the material and also the knowledge exchange in this kind of medical care and medical treating. For example, traditional Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine, such as the acupuncture, like using the different kind of the needle, but it's not really kind of to cure some kind of exact issue, but to improve the general condition of a man or a woman. So the traditional Chinese medicine, the knowledge or even the skill of traditional Chinese medicine actually has been promoted into this kind of development of international medical care and medical, let's say, treating. And traditional Chinese medicine also attracted a lot of students. They come to China, they come to Beijing. We have China University of the traditional Chinese medicine. I myself actually gave a lecture to the foreign students in the China University of the traditional Chinese medicine, but not about the traditional Chinese medicine, but about this kind of party history and party building. But I know that there are already a lot of students coming from different kind of regions and part of the world coming to China to learn about the traditional Chinese medicine, not only about treating some particular issue, but also to improve people's kind of condition. So I think China has actively joined and contributed in health, medical care, not only in this kind of manpower, but also the knowledge, technology, this kind of cooperation.
Okay, Shuwei, bringing it back to plans in China today, you spoke about the healthy eating plan. Can you tell us if that's captured your imagination online? Are people interested in it? Do people like it? Do they not like it?
I think the key issue on the trending topic is about to lose weight to build a more healthy lifestyle. So now we know China is in a very quick transformation and the industrialization and the urbanization. Actually, a lot of people they are doing work in the office or sometimes to eat more, and so that is not kind of healthy, because now China is to build more facilities for people to do exercise. And you see, for the winter economy, we encourage over 300 million people to participate in the winter sports. And now for the city like Beijing, now they have a huge investment in for the bicycles and for the people's the jogging and also for the parks. So it's a reflex of China's commitment to bring the better and good health to the people and to encourage people to have a more sustainable way of this lifestyle. And that is also very good for the national health system. So if you have this kind of health lifestyle and with the guidance from the hospitals, and now for the hospitals, they even set up some office to help people to live a more better and more healthy lifestyle.
How granular is it? Does it go down to advising what kind of foods to eat, that kind of thing?
Yes, there's guidelines and like how much calories you need for every day and how to have a more diversified food for 3 meals, because that is also will require the restaurants and the hotels and to upgrade their supply chains and to have a complete game changer to the whole society and for the ecosystem of this kind of business. So I think to the end, it will upgrade the Chinese economy to a more sustainable and to a more healthy way. And that is also got a lot of attractions from abroad, because we know now a lot of foreign companies, they are also doing the food industry. They are having the restaurants and to have the hotels. So they would also to make the offers like what kind of food is great and what kind of exercise. So that is kind of opportunities for a lot of people in this field.
Great, thank you very much. And talking about the economy and opportunities within it, then I think we can move on to our second topic. So this is a greening economy. How can we balance economic growth with environmental protection? It's a complex challenge, of course, and China's already doing it in many small ways at a micro level with eco-businesses, sustainable tourism. All these kind of things are very on trend at the moment. Professor Xia, perhaps you can tell us how compatible greening economy is with continued economic growth.
Well, very much for the question. This is a very interesting, let's say, topic, and it has become the trending or the hot word in China. The word is called two mountain theory, or the theories of two mountains. In Chinese, we call it 两山理论. I mean, green water and green mountain and clean water is even kind of more valuable than the gold and the silver mountain. This sentence, this argument, just signify the significance of the ecological protection, or even the environment protection, the preservation of a good environment or the good ecological condition to the economy. And actually, Zhejiang is one of the good way or good example to illustrate the balance between ecological protection and economic development. But not only in Zhejiang province. I can raise another example. That is Saihanba. Okay, Saihanba is a place in northern China, even more north than Beijing. Actually, it is in the border between Inner Mongolia, the province of Inner Mongolia, and Hebei province. Back then, almost 150 years ago, actually almost 100 and let's say 60 years ago, let's say in the early period of Qing Dynasty. Actually, 17th century, the Saihanba was a very kind of a good place. A lot of forest, a lot of grass, a lot of those kind of animals. It even became a kind of a hunting place for the noble, for the Qing Dynasty, the royal houses. However, in 19th century, particularly right after 1856, 1860, those kind of the foreign invaders and foreign invasion, and even the degeneration or degeneration of those kind of Qing government's governance, governing capability, nobody would care. Nobody did care about those kind of Saihanba. So Saihanba became a let's say a nearest desert near Beijing. So in the early period of PRC, the People's Republic of China, in early 1950s and early 1960s, there were no forests, there were no trees, there were no, let's say, grass, and there were green color in this kind of Saihanba. So therefore, a lot of sandstorm just came in Beijing. We have seen a lot of sandstorm. We have seen a lot of those kind of sand. So that was the origin. And the Chinese government, under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, started to rebuild this Saihanba. So there was a term called the Saihanba Jingshen, or the spirit of Saihanba. That was to continue let's say, preserving the ecological civilization, to continue, contributing to the local ecological conditions, so that it could bring more benefit to local economy. Not only local economy, but also the entire, let's say, transformation of northern China's landscape. So I think that would be a very good example. Not only the Zhejiang province, but also the Saihanba was a good example to illustrate a balance between the ecological preservation, the ecological protection, and the local economic development. And they say that the Saihanba, now if we go to Saihanba, it has already become a very, very good forest. We could go to visit the national, just like a national park, and a lot of woods, a lot of, let's say, good woods to provide this kind of construction. So that has a very good potential for economy, not only for tourism, but also for natural resources. We could use the wood, we could use the grass, we could even, cultivate a diversity of the animals. So we contribute to the diversification of the animal, of even the biological diversity. So that's the potential of the balance between ecological protection and the economy, social economic development.
Wonderful, thank you. Aina, one of the core missions from the government work report this year and from the Central Economic Work Conference last year was putting domestic demand and boosting it at the center of the plan ahead. How important can the green economy, green tourism, sustainable businesses, how important a role can they play in boosting consumption?
Well, it's all about having a sustainable lifestyle, and consumption is related to choices. Obviously, choices are made. What do I want to do? I don't want to go to some polluted place that isn't interested. I'd much rather go somewhere where there's some decent food, some natural beauty that's clean, and where I can enjoy myself and also a healthy life. These are the choices that people make and that are driven. Remember, China is increasingly moving towards a tertiary society. It's much more service-based, and the things that we're talking about are all services. Tourism is pure services. It's hotels, eating establishments, entertainment, natural areas. But when you phrase your question, this kind of balance between them, I don't see it as a balance. I see it as a synergy, as my colleague does. These are things that add to the value of life, give people better choices, and much more sustainable. One of the reasons that China is, people, you're expected to live 2 years longer in China than you will in the United States. And I think that's a large part of it. I think senior Chinese officials, when they go to the United States, are horrified by the waddling masses of people with their clutching their, huge cups of Diet Coke, but still massively overweight. And China doesn't want to pursue that path, so it's taking the necessary means, not only to improve the environment by which you can get healthcare, but improve your lifestyle and the choices that you have.
Shuwei, you spent a lot of time traveling around China, looking at some of these micro businesses, eco-tourist locations, things like that. But you've also spent time living and working in Africa and in the Middle East. Do you think there's any lessons or models that these countries from outside China can take from what China's achieved?
I think in terms of the green transition, and especially for the environmental protection and for the economy parts, so China's experience has proved that green transition is not empty talk. It's about real work, real hard work. So I think two arguments. First is about the protection of the environment. Is not in the contradiction of the industrialization, it's not in the contradiction of the rural revitalization and to get people lift out of poverty. Because from China's experience in the rural areas, when people doing the environmental protection, like the forest, to grow more forest, and they can also develop the kind of economy under the forest by growing like mushrooms and to develop this kind of like eco tourism. So with the help, with the support from the government side, so the green transition can help people to get benefits, to get wealth. So I think that is the key lessons we could learn from the Chinese experience. And for example, the countries in the Gulf country, in the Middle East, and also in Africa, in the global South, people can learn this kind of experience, good examples from China. And the second argument is about the green transition. Is about a kind of lifestyles. It's about people's mentality of that they must cherish the environment. So from taking me as an example, like 15 years ago when I was in the middle school and high school, what we have learned from the textbook is about China's industrialization, modernization cannot replicate the previous industrialization, like you do the pollution first and then to have these measures to restore the environment. That will be more costly and that will bring more harm to people's daily lives. So at the beginning, in the industrialization and in this kind of urbanization, modernization, rural revitalization, you must have to set some certain rules. So that is how China's green transition at rural level were started. Like for the river management, you set some rules, and the different villages are along this river, they have their responsibility to take care of their section. And with this kind of mechanism, the whole river can be restored to the previous one and to have more sustainable development. And at the end, everyone will get benefits. So I think these two arguments are good examples. And of course, seeing is believing, and we do hope more friends from the other countries who have the site visit to learn more and to adapt to their local conditions.
Well, one of the things that people come to China for a lot is to experience the cuisine, the diverse cuisine, all kinds of different foods here. That takes us on to topic 3. China's put a lot of focus on food security over recent years. Last year, it hugely surpassed its grain targets, and it increased its grain targets again this year. Professor Xiao, can you tell us what measures China is at the moment taking to increase food security, and maybe some of the reasons why?
Yes, of course. Actually, thank you for using this question and asking. Food security has become a focus of China's, let's say, policy priority. Actually, ever since the reform period. When we kind of look back the achievement of China's reform and opening up, most people would focus on the development of coastal areas like the city of Shenzhen, the city of Shanghai, the development of those kind of coastal areas and the industrialization. We have seen a lot of, let's say, skyscrapers. We have seen a lot of high-speed railway. We have seen a lot of urbanization, right? Not only about that, or in addition to those kind of, let's say, tangible achievement in this kind of industrialization, I think the other important achievement of China's up is China by itself solve the we can say tackle the issue of the people's kind of livelihood, and one of the key issue is food security. You know that in the early period of China's reform, that's the early 1980s, the previous Chinese leader like Deng Xiaoping, he just clearly grasped the issue of China's reform or China's development. Back then, he asked one question: what could China contribute to the world development, the world peace? Because in 1980s, he introduced, Deng Xiaoping emphasized that peace and development, right? Peace and development are two important issues for those kind of international community and those kind of development. And China, of course, could bring peace to the world because China would not like to bring war, start war. But how could China, contribute to the peace? That is, China could by itself to solve the Chinese people's kind of the food or the issue of the food. Well, back then, if I remember correctly, there were a lot of people in China, Chinese people, couldn't feed or couldn't have a very good meal, right? When we, let's say, during the Spring Festival in 1980s, 1990s, most of the kind of the elders people in our family would share their stories when they were young, when they were kids, when they were kind of very young, when they how did they experience in the Spring Festival? The elders or the grandparents, those kind of people, sorry, that in Spring Festival, what they wanted the most was a bowl of rice, and even the hot noodles or hot dumplings. Nowadays, everyone every day can eat rice, can eat dumplings, can even eat noodles. So we could say that previously the food security or the food crisis has become China's kind of major problem. So Chinese government has put this issue as a priority ever since reform, ever since the founding of the People's Republic of China, if we could say so. And the first policy or the first kind of mechanism is to the farmland protection or strict farmland protection policy. Where we have one digit that was 1.8 billion mu, because mu is the unit of Chinese to to let's say to depict how big is the land, right? China, the 1.8 billion mu. So that's the red line of China's kind of farmland or cultivated land protection. So that's a strict policy. And should be kind of no one could break this kind of a policy. So in rural areas, if we go to rural areas, see there are a lot of kind of slogans, brushed on the wall. Let's say they have this slogan to guarding the red line of 1.8 billion, because that's the red line of China's land. If we don't have that kind of land, we couldn't have the space to grow green. We couldn't grow green, then we have less food. We couldn't even feed 1.4 billion people. So that's the first policy, the farmland, let's say, protection. The other policy would be food production support and incentive. For example, the peasantry or the farmers, they tend to find that growing other kind of economic product would be more profitable than growing green. So Chinese government at different kind of levels would encourage the farmers to grow green more, because grow green, you need more energy, you need more water, you need more, let's say, kind of very detailed and even kind of let's say cultivation is kind of and even those kind of let's say gardening thing to protect the not only also the guarantee mechanism and incentive. That's also another policy to let's say inspire the farmer to grow more green. That's the second thing. The third kind of policy or the third mechanism is to use more scientific and technological resources, so that the innovation and the development of science technology could be brought to even the kind of thing. I think one of the examples is very interesting. That is the biological soil crust. What is a biological soil crust? That is one of the microorganisms invented or developed by the agricultural scientists, just like a fungi. You put this fungi in the sand, in the desert, in the northwest sand, and this sand would become a soil, would become a cultivated soil, cultivated land, so that it could be greens and even other kind of vegetables on the land. And that would be the scientific technological innovations contribution to China's food crisis. So I think that would be very interesting, let's say, topic. And if we could have more time to talk about this kind of thing, there are a lot of good examples, good stories about those kind of people. They have been doing this kind of contribution to China's food security, not only contributing to China's stability, but also to the world peace, to the world kind of development.
Thank you, Professor. A very interesting background there for us. Aina, Professor laid out some interesting history about China's policies on food security. I'm wondering if the current emphasis on it, which seems to me to be a little stronger at the moment in the way that is coming up in their work reports and in the media, is that driven at all by external forces, the instability in the world?
No, there is reasons going back to the emperors. I mean, many dynasties fell simply because they did not fill the imperial granary enough to weather any drought. And so that's something that sticks in the historical mind of leaders today in China. The second part, though, is driven by this idea that the U.S. In particular is trying to contain China. All of this movement in the South China Seas and in these Taiwan Straits, these are very threatening because they could, in essence, create a trade barrier. Remember, it's China who would suffer if there was any kind of interruptions in the South China Sea, Taiwan Straits, because of the amount of trade that goes through there, 40% of China's trade, the fact that almost 90% of the imported oil comes through the Taiwan Straits. So there's this real concern: what is the U.S. up to? Would they use this as a card against China? Well, there's also food and grain that comes through those areas as well. So they're trying to make sure that they can weather any kind of storm, and this is more to do with external forces than the fear of having a drought and and a shortage. So this is what motivates them. It's just good planning. Remember, that's the whole point of government, to secure, to create an orderly environment and to protect against potential threatening forces, whether natural or man-made.
Shui, is the issue of food security, are people interested online? Are people talking about it?
Yes, and for the food security is always one of the top priorities and top focus on every year's two sessions. Actually, in this year's two sessions and also for the #1 central government document, it's emphasized that the foundation of the agriculture part. So in terms of the food security, I think the three arguments, three perspectives. #1 is, question, who will feed China's 1.4 billion? That is a question always asked by the experts at home and abroad. Of course, China gave the answer. It is for themselves. China must hold the rice bowl for the people, the 1.4 billion people. Actually, around 70% of the grains and the sample foods were supplied domestically. So that is a kind of contribution to the world's food security and also the sustainable development. China's a kind of miracle. Like China just used around 7% of the world's arable land to support 1/5 of the world's population, 1.4 billion people every day. So the second argument is actually the food security is not only about grain, to grow grains and rice, but it's also about the whole industrial chain. It's about the food reserve and about the technology, about like the seeds, the technology input, and also about the logistics, the storage. Because now, from my experience in some countries, the food security, the food crisis is not just only caused by like the drought, but also like the food storage. Sometimes like the grains just get rotated, and because of the logistic issues about the infrastructure, about the highway, the lack of this kind of transportation, that make the food crisis even more worse. So that is why China has to invest a lot in the infrastructure, like in the Belt and Road Initiative, and a lot of these kind of transportation are prioritized, and the storage and the industrialization to make the food security even more stronger. And for the third part is of course about international cooperation, because China is also kind of a main importer of the food, more diversified. That is also creating a kind of opportunities for a lot of countries, like from the ASEAN countries, not ASEAN countries, the Southeast Asian countries are the #1 trading partner of China, and a lot of countries, business and farmers, they are getting profits from doing this kind of food trades and the tropical fruits, and also for the processing part. So for the food security, China gave this kind of expertise and international corporations then to boost the locals with the local development through technology cooperation, through trade, and through all these business parts, and to make the food, to make the solutions more sustainable and more cooperative. And so let's tackle the food security together.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shui. I think we're going to move on to topic 4 now. So this is something which is capturing attention all around the world, AI, and how can AI be used in society to improve people's lives? Obviously in China we've had over the past few months the emergence of DeepSeek, which has had an AI platform relatively cheap compared to the others that have been developed in the US in particular. We've had Manus, another platform has emerged this week, which is incredibly popular. And as AI gets cheaper, there's a feeling that it can be applied more widely in society, and there's more opportunities for it to do good, to help us all. So maybe, Aina, we can start with you. Are there any tangible ways that people will feel that AI is benefiting them in the year ahead?
Yeah, especially organizational matters. Anything where you have a large body of information and you have to kind of sort through it, prioritize it, put it into some sort of useful form, summarize it. Very, very good. I recently attended a symposium where I was speaking. It went on for about 4 hours. But what they had is they had DeepSeek listening in on the entire symposium. And then it was DeepSeek who actually gave the summary of it. It was actually pretty good. Something like that saves, having a secretary sitting there or a translator, et cetera, because DeepSeek can do both, can listen to English and Chinese simultaneously. So it was very, very useful. But I mean, if you're, one of the mistakes people think is it's just simply going to replace you. It's only going to replace you if you don't add any value other than organizing information. If, in fact, you are able to add value by asking the right questions, organizing things at a higher level, you're not going anywhere. The fact is, DeepSeek is, as I said, it's kind of a step and fetch it. It does what you ask it to do and not much more. So people need to temper their kind of wild imagination and their Space Odyssey 2001 expectations that there's a singularity about to spring forth on them and take their jobs and leave them homeless. That's not the way it works. And hopefully we will start seeing even more beneficial parts of this. Remember, this is like automation, all right? No one has a lot of fun sitting in a factory turning a screw every 2 seconds for an 8-hour shift a day. That's what automation has done. It allowed us to have more productive lives. And you should think about AI as simply automation of information.
Great, thank you, Aina. Shuwei, as you've moved around the country, you speak to people in government and working in business. How do you see AI changing people's lives in the year ahead? Are there tangible examples you can give us?
Actually, when I was talking with the NPC deputies and the CPP members, and CPPCC members, and other guests in this field, especially for the AI part, AI plus future industries is one of the keywords I mentioned for multiple times. So it is about how to use AI to empower the future industries, like the robotics. Now everyone is just waiting for maybe in 1 or 2 years, we will have a robotic babysitter in our home to do the housework and to help people to get rid of this kind of a lot of daily work and to have a more luxuries and more pleasant daily life. And the second one is about how to use AI to transform the traditional industries, because now for the AI development, a lot of people just worry about, just like you and me, are we going to be replaced by AI, like the AI anchor and AI host? But for the traditional industries like the steel, iron and steel, the automation, and for the other industries, people are getting used to have this AI to transform, to make it more cost efficient, to help to make more process manufacturing and to increase the efficiency and to lower the cost. And for the third part, I think is mainly for the young generations, because when I was in doing the coverage about the 2 sessions, a lot of foreign journalists and foreign experts, they ask me a lot about how this kind of AI cooperation can enhance and can be enhanced. I always said the young generation, the cooperation for the education part through the exchange programs, and for the young generation, they are the future in this field. And with this kind of cooperation, more people will bring more brilliant ideas. Because for the AI, the final thing is we must to have kind of regulations, because we have to counter kind of crimes made by AI, so that people need to set certain regulations and rules, and to also to help people, especially for the elderly people, to not be left behind, because now that for the AI development, some people maybe get cheated by this kind of some images or some informations were generated by the AI. So we need to have this kind of collaboration on to tackle these kind of challenges together.
Professor Shah, Shui mentioned regulation there. And regulation is one of the kind of thorny issues around AI as it develops at such speeds. New platforms and apps are popping up all the time. There's already a divide opening up between the US and UK, slightly siding with the US, and Europe, which is trying to heavily regulate, and the US and UK are more light touch at the moment. What's China's position on AI going forward?
Well, I think that's a very, let's say, interesting question. I treat that question both theoretical and practical. In terms of theoretical aspect, I think Chinese government, at this stage, at this phase, Chinese government or Chinese society, is kind of a more trying to, let's say, maximizing the efficiency, maximizing the benefit of the AI, particularly of the AI's contribution to the development efficiency. For example, just we mentioned the AI could help memorize this transcript of a conference, symposium, and also help us to summarize those kind of main argument, and also to help us to fill the form, help us to analyze the data, help us to optimize our policy, even help us to personalize some kind of a public or personal services. That's the kind of a first stage, or at the current stage, Chinese government would like to do to maximize the AI's let's say efficiency, or we can say to maximize the good aspect of AI. But at the same time, Chinese government is trying to regulate, trying to regulation, made other kind of education to let people know that there is always the other side. There's always the other side of a cutting edge technology. And in my opinion, the noteworthy question or the noteworthy point is that will AI replace people, replace us in order to make institutions? Now we ask AI to help us do those kind of data analyzing, data processing, even those kind of simple work. Well, will AI in the future? Will AI make institution, make policies, even when they kind of make regulations? So that's not a kind of a thing in a sci-fi movie or sci-fi story. That would be the point we should reconsider. We should consider first, because it is also about how to regulate the use of AI, how to regulate, the benefit of AI. So that's the point. And also the other thing is that actually nowadays most of the kind of philosopher, particularly those kind of scientific philosophy or the philosophy of science, would bring these moral and ethical questions about AI. In my opinion, well, that is good. That is very kind of a good point to think about how to good point, and this kind of a side effect of AI to the human society, to the society of mankind. I think the Chinese government is doing some kind of a good way. First, to let people know that AI can help us, and then to educate people that AI could help us, but AI could not replace everyone, could not replace the people in doing anything. So some of the job still could be done by our human being. For example, to make a better life. For example, to make peace, for example, to make kind of a community that a shared future. So it would be a very complicated question, but I think everyone in this society, everyone in this world should know first that AI is good. The mechanism of how it is working and how it could help us to make a better life, and then we need to know that how to regulate, how to balance the good and bad one. So I think Chinese government, not only Chinese government but also Chinese society, is doing its best to educate the society. There are let's say both sides of a cutting edge technology.
Huge potential ahead, but also a great number of challenges to tackle. We're going to turn to some, I suppose we could call it old media now. Shui, because you're going to read out some messages from social media.
All right. So as we have talked a lot about how the main focus about this year's two sessions, and our guests share a lot of insights. And on social media, actually, we have a lot of people just focus like for the rural development and economic development. First one is intangible cultural heritage and rural development, gratitude and thank you and love your traditions. I think this one is just focus about the rural revitalization part. And for the second part is I think it's mainly about how to lift people out of poverty and build a resilient public sector and educated workforce. And I think he is mainly focusing on the industrialization part and, of course, maybe the AI part also. And for the China's contribution to the world's economic development, there we have another guest that said, stable growth and the determination of China are good for the rest of the world. Yes, and so I heard from this year's Foreign Minister Wang Yi's press conference, China would provide certainties to this uncertain world. So I think that is China's contribution, especially when we are facing a lot of uncertainties and challenges. And another guest is saying, he's focusing on the Belt and Road Initiative. He said, keep expanding the Belt and Road Initiative and help nations like Mongolia, Mexico, Canada, Panama, Nicaragua, Vietnam, and African countries to join the BRICS. Okay, so it's about the global solidarity, but I think for the BRICS, we have the BRICS mechanism, BRICS plus mechanism to have this kind of multilateralism and multipolar world.
Constantly expanding BRICS,
Yes.
ever bigger, ever more influential.
Yes.
Thank you, Shui. So the two sessions is over, and as Shui mentioned there, stability was a key theme that ran through the Foreign Minister's press conference, talking about China's economy, also sustainability, and also the potential of AI to change things. Obviously, China's hugely focused on new technology and how that can drive the economy in the future. I'd like to ask all of our guests just quickly to draw out one theme for the year ahead to watch out for. Ina, if you're able to go first, just something that you think people should be looking out for in the year ahead that could be particularly consequential or interesting.
You know, the greatest economic driver that the world has today that is untouched are small and medium-sized business entities. Collectively, they're 40% of the world's GDP. In China, they're 50% of the GDP, 60% of government revenues, 80% of jobs, 70% of new innovation, 90% of new jobs. They are an incredibly powerful entity that needs to be harnessed. China and the world needs a new economic driver. The old ones, these huge companies that have dominated things, seem to be taxing people rather than serving them. So at this point, I think people should be paying attention to this. The reason is that the digital economy is poised to change everything. Say, if you're a small farmer in the middle of Mozambique, but you make incredible honey that is flavored with local herbs, you can advertise it online. You can get it logistically to a port and send it to customers. And those customers can pay you through digital platforms, which might include direct currency instead of going through a third party, US dollar. Why is this important? The barriers to international trade for small and medium-sized business entities have been the complexity of the process and the cost of those processes. That's why it's been dominated for years by large entities that consolidate things. But I think the future is going to be about small entities. And these small entities are going to change the not only economic landscape, but also the social and political one. When you have people interacting with each other on a person-to-person basis, based on business and understanding each other's markets, it's going to be a lot harder for countries and politicians to convince them that they need to go to war with the people that they do business with and whom they like.
Great, thank you. That's a really fascinating insight. The potential role of small and medium enterprises in bringing people together as well as boosting economic growth. Shui, could you go next, please?
Yes, for me, it's still the AI plus future industries, because we need to grasp the opportunities generated by the AI and the future industries. And because it's changing fast, it will be more powerful in the coming days. So AI plus future industry are my keywords.
Okay, great. And Professor Shah, perhaps you can have the last word.
Yes, I will have a very quick observation or perspective on the two sessions. everyone is kind of focusing on the two sessions in each and every year's March. Previously, the two sessions are completely or largely domestic issue, right? Of course, it is domestic issues. It's like China's Congress kind of holding its national session every year, annual session. However, more and more the foreign, let's say, journalists and reporters are focusing on reporting this kind of two session, not only because they care about China, but also they care about China's contribution to the global development and the global peace. I think that not only should we focus on the policy, this kind of institution about two sessions, the Chinese government, but we should also, let's say, learn from the methodology and the spirit that behind those kind of policy. For example, the people-oriented philosophy, right? People-centered or people-oriented philosophy. We consider all these kind of policies that is to make the people feel better, to make the people live better, live a better world. That's the kind of first principle. The second principle is that we should consider this kind of economy or society in a systematic way, like traditional Chinese medicine. It's a very good methodology. It's a very good way to think about not only one country but also the whole world. So we should, with a bigger perspective to view our world. And some of the global issues could not be solved by a single country. Everyone work together. Every country work together. That's the way to deal with the global issue or the global crisis that we are facing in the future. That's my observation of two sessions.
Yeah, cooperation is the way forward. Okay, thank you, Professor Schaap, Aina Tangen, Shun Shui. Thank you for talking China, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.